Hey, this is going to be an animated book review of the book Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. And if you want to figure out why Asians are so good at math, you'll have to wait till the end. He starts off the book by explaining that if you take a whole bunch of hockey players and look at their birthdays, there's a pattern. A pattern appears that the top of the top, the best hockey players are born in January, February, and March. And he goes into analysis and he starts finding out that the reason for this is because this will explain it a little bit better. Alright, so you have months 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And then you start over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And then after this pattern, for each grade of school, there's a cutoff date. If you were born before December, you are in the earlier grade. But if you're born after December, you're born into the next grade. And this is kind of hard to explain, but it's really easy. But it's pretty cool once you understand it. He says that those born in the beginning of the year were towards the end of the cutoff date. That is, they were actually 5, 6, 7, 8, almost a year older than their counterparts who were in earlier dates. And he says that those couple extra months were viewed as talent. It made those players stand out, and because of that, they got extra training, extra equipment, extra gear, when in reality, their physical maturity was a thing that made them better hockey players. And there was actually a stat that said those born in later months throughout high school and college were more likely to attempt suicide. And that's simply because they weren't as good at a skill. And this is the first big principle that I kind of realized, was that it does matter when you were born. That depending on which grade you get put into, if you are the youngest or if you are the oldest of your class, you are going to be selected and you're going to be better or worse than the rest of your class. The second principle is something called the 10,000 hour rule. After analysis of a whole bunch of chess grandmasters and other people who were really good at their craft, what they realized is that it takes around 10,000 hours to become the best of the best. And in fact, when you start looking into it, you realize Mozart, some of his early works weren't even outstanding. They weren't even astonishing. So I like to view this as whenever you start something, whenever you start playing the piano or you start learning a new instrument or a new programming language, don't expect to be good at it within the first 10, 20, 50 hours. You have to put in the hours. You have to work really hard at creating your craft and getting really good at it. And this 10,000 hour rule can be found in ice skaters, fiction writers, basketball players, even master criminals. And we're going to take, for example, Bill Gates. Now, he was extraordinary when it came to programming. But the secret behind this was because in high school, starting at the 8th grade, he had access to one of the world's newest computers. And during his summers, he spent a lot of time understanding how the programming language worked. In fact, in the first 7 months that he was allowed to use it, he spent over 1,500 hours. And that works out to around 8 hours a day for 7 days a week. And for the next 7 years, he practiced way past 10,000 hours. And this is why he is so noted. This helped him create Microsoft. Literally, the thousands of hours and painstaking time that he put into it helped him become wealthy in his skill. And they also found that the difference between wealthy and non-wealthy parents is that wealthy parents take their children and have them do stuff all the time. They're always busy. They're always at soccer practice. They're always at violin practice. They are always practicing their skills and cultivating them to become better. And this is principle number 2, the 10,000 hour rule. If you want to get good at something, you have to start putting in the time. Now, principle number 3 was a really cool. I had kind of thought about it a little bit, but it was really cool. I'm going to present these numbers to you, 4, 8, 5, 3, 9, 7, 6. And I want you to say them out loud or in your head for around 20 seconds. 4, 8, 5, 3, 9, 7, 6. 4, 8, 5, 3, 9, 7, 6. Try to memorize them. You can pause the video if you need to. Now, what they found out was that students of the English language could remember about 50% of them, or they could remember the entire sequence about half of the time. However, Chinese students could remember it almost every single time. And this is because to say the numbers 4, 8, 5, 3, 9, 7, 6, to sub-vocalize them in our throats, there are more syllables and you cannot say these numbers as quickly as you could in Chinese. And what he realizes is that Generally, you have around 2 seconds of a short-term memory of remembering digits. And since the Chinese could say these numbers extremely fast, they remember more of them. And another little thing is, our number system, the English number system, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, gets a little strange. You would expect after 10, it would be something like 1 teen as opposed to 11, or 2 teen as opposed to 12. And this goes for 13, 15, and other numbers like 40 and 60 are kind of close, but 50, you would expect it to be 5T, or 30, 3 teen. China, Japan, and Korea, they actually do this more logically. What they do is 11 is 10-1, 12 is 10-2. A number like 24 is 2 tens 4. And because their language is set up a little different, by the age of 5, American children are already a year behind their Asian counterparts. And this kind of gets into what I mentioned at the beginning at why Asians, or generally people of the Asian culture, are better at math. So principle number 3 is that language is important. Now we're moving on to principle 4. So he goes in and he explains a little bit about what rice paddies are and how difficult they are to maintain, that you must put into the work. You must put in, he kind of mentions the 10,000 hour rule. You really have to work at these rice paddies in order to grow the rice. And he says that the culture, the Asian culture, to grow these rice paddies, they work really hard and they understand that they need to work hard in order to grow the rice paddies. He says that in the Western cultures, in order to get more of a yield, in order to get more corn, we just have to expand our technology. But the Asian culture says we don't necessarily need to expand our technology, we just need to work harder. We need to put more work into it. And they found out that rice workers put around 3,000 hours a year in the hot sun. And this kind of moves on to the main principle of principle number 4, which is they have this test, it's called the TIMSS test, and every 4 years they give it to a whole bunch of countries. And it basically, they balance the weights and see which country is really good at math or which country is really good at science. And what they found was that on this test, it's around 120 questions, which is, it's pretty extensive. I mean, 120 questions, you're going to get tired by the end of it. And at the end of it, they included a little questionnaire, a little survey to ask simple questions such as, what's your favorite color, or are you male or female? Just little questions like that are questionnaires. You didn't have to put much thought into it. You just had to try. And what they found was that the correlation between the averages of the countries was that questions answered on the questionnaire was exactly the same as the math score. And they came up with the conclusion that mathematics isn't an innate ability. It's not something that you develop automatically. It's in fact, it's an attitude. Is that the harder you try, the better at math you are going to be. And I really like this principle. In fact, principle number 4, the idea that something isn't an innate ability, a talent that you were born with, that it is actually an attitude, that it is something that you can develop, that you can cultivate. This is my favorite principle out of this book. Now, I have mentioned 4 principles, and I want you to leave a comment below telling me which your favorite principle is. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and I hope you learned something. Subscribe for more.